Hello, it's hard to tire of a shot of the Champs-Élysées on the final Sunday of the Tour, but equally it's hard to vary it much from year to year, save for putting the Arc de Triomphe on the right-hand side of the shot instead of the left. This is different though. The Tour indoors, and not just any doors, but the giant ornamental doors of the Grand Palais, built in 1900, inspired by Crystal Palace in London, and dedicated as a monument by the French Republic to the glory of French art. Well, today it's going to be dedicated to the glory of French cycling. You can see some of the members of the public rolling through at the moment. When the race gets here, after it crosses the Seine and before it hits the Champs-Élysées, it's going to roll straight through the Grand Palais. Should only take a few seconds, but it'll look fabulous, especially from the helicopter shots up above through the roof. Right, all that's for later on. For the moment, there's an item in the running order called the full story, which is a bit worrying because it entails squeezing a 3-week race into a 3-minute segment. I tell you what, let's call it the first draft. Exterior, Dusseldorf, rain. The sky over Wim Wenders' home city wasn't at its cinematic best for the opening time trial. Neither was Tony Martin. There'd be no home win on stage 1, unless you were Welsh. Geraint Thomas took the first yellow jersey of the race in his career. Chris Froome took time from all his rivals. Stage 2 took the race into Belgium. There'd be no home win there either, unless you were German. Marcel Kittel arrived a day late and a bike length clear for the first of 5 stage wins. Of course, he was never going to win the green jersey because Peter Sagan was here. But the commissaires took care of that, sending the world champion home for not elbowing Mark Cavendish, who left 2 with a broken shoulder blade. Like an early declaring election night constituency, La Planche des Belles Filles had predicted the winner in both its previous Tour appearances. Fabio Aru took the stage, but Chris Froome kept the yellow jersey for Sky. The Tour's toughest mountain stage finished downhill, but not everybody finished the stage. Richie Port's bike went off the road, he went across it and under the wheels of Dan Martin. Geraint Thomas crashed out too. Rigoberto Urán damaged only his gears, but won anyway on a single-speed bike. All Froome's major rivals beat him on the uphill runway at Peyregoud, and he lost the jersey to Aru. Tour de France was turning into an actual race. If he'd had the teams, or the legs, or a bit of common sense, Aru would have stuck to Froome's wheel on the way to Rodez instead of getting caught on the wrong side of a predictable split and giving up the lead he'd toiled to establish. Romain Bardet did have a proper team, and they tested Sky at every opportunity. Dan Martin didn't, even after Marcel Kittel abandoned, but attacked anyway, even when the chief casualty was his own injured body. The closest Chris Froome came to losing the lead once he'd retaken it was stage 15. With a broken back wheel and his Tour chances disappearing up the climb, he was saved by the 3 Mikes. Michał Kwiatkowski donated his wheel and the expertise to fit it. The Michels Nieve and Landa helped tow him until he took over and clockworked back to the group himself, booed all the way. The French had plenty to cheer though, not just Bardet but Barguil, winning 2 stages and the King of the Mountains jersey, while his Aussie roommate Michael Matthews won 2 stages and the green. Simon Yates confused the podium staff, who thought his brother was winning the white jersey for the 2nd year running. Froome in the end won nothing but the race, holding his challengers off on the final mountain, then dispatching them in the final time trial. Sky, tellingly, won the team prize. Here's the individual classification after yesterday's time trial though. Chris Froome has 54 seconds over Rigoberto Urán, with Romain Bardet almost slipping from 2nd to 4th. Mikel Landa ends his final Tour for Sky just a second from the podium. Fabio Aru holds on to 5th, Dan Martin claims a fighting 6th that might have been more if not for his crash. Simon Yates and Louis Meintjes recorded identical times yesterday to stay 7th and 8th, while Alberto Contador reclaimed 9th from Warren Barguil. The other jerseys produced some great racing this year. Warren Barguil was a proper King of the Mountains winner and might graduate from there to contend for the Tour overall. He and his teammate Michael Matthews took over the race for a while with 2 stage wins, and Matthews might still have been fighting for the green jersey today if Marcel Kittel hadn't abandoned. And it's hard not to mention it when twin brothers win the white jersey in consecutive years, but Simon Yates' achievement should be applauded in itself. If Chris Froome had kept the race lead from the day he first took it in this race, he'd be equalling Miguel Indurain with his 60th day in yellow. As it is, he's closing in on Indurain, Hinault, Merckx and Anquetil in the grand scheme of things. 4 wins overall to their 5.
Huge honour just to be mentioned in the same sentence as the great of the Tour de France history like that. But I'm certainly just taking it one race at a time at this point. I mean, I have to get to Paris obviously tomorrow safely, with the rest of the guys. Yeah, just taking it one season at a time at this point. But yeah, a huge honour.
Now, today's start honours a bit of Tour history, setting off from the Réveil Matin Café in the Paris suburb of Montgeron, as the very first Tour did in 1903. And after the usual messing about on the way into town, it'll finish with 8 high-speed laps of the Champs-Élysées and 1 final sprint to end the race. Of course, there'll also be the novelty of that passage through the Grand Palais on the way to the final circuit. There's the start. Not much sign of the Réveil Matin Café as the 167 survivors set off for Paris. Sky opted for rosé champagne this year for what it's worth. The early comedy came from Mikel Landa, either attacking to gain the second he needs over Romain Bardet to get on the podium, or waving goodbye to Team Sky as he heads off for Movistar. Here's a nice touch though, a team car handshake, the hands belonging to Dave Brailsford on the left and AG2R's Vincent Lavenu on the right. As we join the race, it's inside the capital and heading towards the Champs-Élysées.
If, or rather when, Chris Froome wraps up his 4th Tour de France on the Champs-Élysées tonight, he'll become only the 3rd rider in 30 years to have claimed overall victory without notching a single stage win. Judging by the fates that have befallen some of the riders who have broken the tape since Dusseldorf, he may also have swerved an uncanny scourge.
Final lap now, 6.6 kilometres remaining. Cofidis rearing up with Nacer Bouhanni in mind in the middle of the road. Meanwhile, Astana on the offensive. What are they going to get out of this Tour de France? One last-ditch bid for glory. It's a long way out, though, this attack, and there are far too many teams involved and interested, and surely this is a forlorn hope.
Tom Vauclair, well, there you go. He's going to get his lap of honour, but he's going to do it off the back. So there's something beautifully ironic about that he will do his last Tour de France, his final Tour de France, on his own, but not off the front, but off the back.
Stybar. Well, he snuffed out the attack from Astana in lightning speed, and then the counter-attack came from Jascha Zutterlin. So those two riders are off the front, Stybar and Zutterlin. It looks like Zutterlin, no, he's still battling. And, well, that's happening on the right-hand side of the road. On the left-hand side of the road, though, that's where the mass of the peloton are. They switch to the right, and they head for the last time round the Arc de Triomphe.
And there we get a really good view of that slight incline, and Stybar is going to use that to his benefit. He's going to get in that gutter immediately on the side. He'll be brushing the gendarme that stand there guarding it. But he's all in now. This is an opportunity he would never get if Marcel Kittel was here. So, you know, it's great to see he is actually embracing it and taking it rather than just sitting back there and taking it as an easy day.
It's got about 5 seconds by my reckoning, and he's a really strong rider, and they might take some pulling back as well. As Bahrain Merida get on the front, they're thinking about the fortunes of the Italian sprinter Sonny Colbrelli.
Bouhanni isolated there at the front, so Bouhanni, the Cofidis sprinter who the whole race he came into this with so much to prove and has proven nothing as of yet. So he's up there, he has to do this, but he is on his own, his team is not. And because of the fact he hasn't been able to achieve, Ben Swift I can see very far at the front as well. Sunweb have 4 riders in front of Michael Matthews, so they have a great leader. There you go, on the right-hand side of the road, Sunweb. You have Katusha, we have Cofidis, we have Direct Energy, we have Dimension Data, which get a little bit ragged. They're getting overrun by Sunweb.
Stybar, though, is going to be caught, and he's going to be caught on the Place de la Concorde, and he's going to be caught at this rate by Katusha Alpecin. And Alexander Kristoff does have the support of his team.
Yes, he does. And there's Michael Matthews. He's actually in perfect position back there. One of the Sunweb drivers has pulled off. He's there, going around there. He's on the outside. Now you've got Katusha controlling this. Cofidis, so they're Sunweb. They're the most prominent teams. What we're going to see is hopefully Edvald Boasson-Hagen, for his own sake, times it to perfection, because we know he can do it. But up to now, it's been the timing that's let him down.
Scott Thwaites, I think that is, from Dimension Data, doing one last big turn on the front, and he'll hand over and he'll look for that South African national champions road race champion jersey. Where is it? Where is Reinhard Janse van Rensburg? Edvald Boasson-Hagen slightly separated at the moment from his lead-out man.
Yeah, and Edvald Boasson-Hagen, he's decided to do it on his own, as I said, just trying to find the right wheel. He's got Nasser Bouhani he's chosen that as his lead-out man, so he's left his team to its own devices. Sunweb, they've got Dimension Data on the front. We've got Lotto Jumbo still there. Dylan van Groenewegen, we haven't spoken about, haven't seen him so closely. We're looking so much at Edvald Boasson-Hagen, Michael Matthews.
Rick Zabel setting things up for Katusha Alpecin. Dylan Groenewegen, the Dutchman, in 3rd place at the moment. He's got Alexander Kristoff on his wheel, though. Edvald Boasson-Hagen being manoeuvred into position now, bit by bit. There he is. There comes Reinhard Janse van Rensburg with Boasson-Hagen on his wheel. Katusha, though, moving up on the left-hand side of the peloton, bumping now as Greipel makes his move. He's got Jürgen Rollins bringing him up on the left-hand side of the road in the red jersey as they swing left-handed and line themselves up for this crucial right-hander. Not far to go now. Groenewegen in pole position. He's using Katusha Alpecin's lead-out man, but he is taking with him Alexander Kristoff. Then comes Boasson-Hagen and then Greipel. They are all towards the front. Where is Bouhani? He looks like he's in about 5th position. Sonny Colbrelli takes the inside line. Round they go. Not long to go now. Groenewegen, exposed to the wind, puts his nose in their wind, and he will lead out all the big sprinters. Can they get past him, though? The Dutchman powering to the line. Will it be Groenewegen's moment? Boasson-Hagen pushing down the middle of the road, and it's Kristoff alongside him. Groenewegen's going to hang on, is he? A big move from Greipel and Groenewegen. Who gets it? Groenewegen believes he is the winner. That was mighty close. He went a long way out, but did Dylan Groenewegen hang on? And further back down the line, the yellow jersey of Chris Froome now gets to the finishing line. Dylan Groenewegen is confirmed as the winner of the stage, but Chris Froome surpasses the great Belgian Philippe Thys. He's won more Tour de France's than Lewis and Bobbé or even Greg LeMond. Groenewegen, though, the winner of stage 21 for the first time in his young career. He has waited and waited and waited on this Tour de France. He has got closer and closer to getting his first ever stage victory on the Tour de France, and he's only gone and got the biggest one of all.
And by far the biggest result of his career to date, ending Andre Greipel's run of Grand Tour stage wins with Edvald Boasson-Hagen 3rd, Nasser Bouhani 4th, and Alexander Kristoff, whose place in the Katusha lead-out Groenewegen muscled his way into at the key moment 5th. And the thing about winning on the Champs-Élysées, of course, is that's the stage your mum and your girlfriend come to watch you ride. Or your wife and your son. Michelle and Kellen, the first faces Chris Froome sought out after he crossed the line, having confirmed the GC we saw established in the time trial. No changes in the top 10 from last night. Froome, Uran, Bardet the podium, and having confirmed his 4th Tour win, the talk turned unforgivably but inevitably to how many more he might manage.
Oh, I think there's no reason to think that he can't. I think physically he's got what it takes. I don't think that's going to diminish in the next year or so. And then it's a question of hunger and mentality. And, the Chris that I've seen here is as hungry as ever. He's working as hard as ever. He's actually getting better tactically. He's getting better technically. So as long as that hunger keeps going and keeps his health, which I'm sure he will, then I think he'll be a force in this race for a good couple of seasons to come.
Now, Froome and Simon Yates aside, 4 other British riders of the 9 who started made it to Paris. Ben Swift was 83rd in his first tour since 2011. Scott Thwaites and Steve Cummings were part of an impressive Dimension Data effort. And in 167th and last, Luke Rowe, the Sky Road captain, was Lanterne Rouge, simultaneously right alongside and 4 hours, 35 minutes, 52 seconds behind his team leader. Now, the biggest stage has the biggest podium, and Dylan Groenewegen was first onto it to savour the atmosphere. The green jersey Michael Matthews didn't figure much in today's sprint, but he's figured in so much over the second half of this race that nobody's going to hold that against him. Warren Barguil, who spent the last 18 months or so dealing with a variety of injuries, had his mum and dad in tears as he took the Mountains title. Simon Yates was trying on the official title he's held provisionally since stage 5, best young rider of the Tour.
Yeah, it sounds pretty good. Yeah, I can get used to that. Yeah, no, really happy. The team did a fantastic job from the very beginning. And yeah, now it's slowly sinking in.
And you've won it with some style, you were aggressive, you were attacking, in spite of some great riders around you, and in spite of the danger of losing time. How important was it for you also to show that flamboyance and show that you're an aggressive attacking rider?
I tried when I could, and when I couldn't, I tried to save energy and I stayed in the wheels. And I think, whenever I have the opportunity to attack and to move, I will try. I like to race aggressively, and I think it's great for the fans. But yeah, sometimes it's not possible, and I had a lot of those times too. So we'll see in the coming years how it plays out.
It might play out against this man as early as next year, and for the 5th time in the last 6 years, it was God Save the Queen playing out during the winners' ceremony. Following the solo winners' ceremony, there was the podium 1, 2, 3, and then the full Tour de France boutique official jersey collection, polka dots, green, white and yellow, a Frenchman, an Australian and 2 British riders.
Chris, many congratulations. Can you give us an idea of what it feels like to ride into Paris, see all the landmarks, wearing the yellow jersey that you dedicate your life to winning?
It definitely, even having done it 3 times previously, the emotions don't change. I mean, it's still just this overwhelming feeling when you roll onto the Champs-Élysées and you just get this roar from the crowd of that just marks the end of 3 weeks. 3 weeks of suffering to get here, and it's just such an amazing feeling to be here with my teammates, and just a whole load of emotions. Obviously, to see the family again after a month on the road as well, it's just makes it so much more special.
And Chris, this is certainly a race this time yet round that where you've benefited from having a very strong team and some great individual performances among your riders. So standing there on the podium alongside them must also have been special.
Amazing to have won the team classification for the first time as well as a team, just to show the strength that we have as a team. And I mean, this really has been a race for us that's been won over 3 weeks. It wasn't about one certain single day that we won the Tour de France. It was a 3-week race, and just chipping away every single day of those 3 weeks. And it's thanks to the guys that I'm here in yellow. I mean, I've had my up days and my down days, but the team has been fantastic all the way through.
Chris, and the Vuelta a España is a race that has lots of up days, and you've never won it, and you've always wanted to. Where are your ambitions now?
I mean, the Vuelta is a special race for me. I mean, it's still a bit early to be talking about it here on the Champs-Élysées, but that was my goal at the beginning of the season, to set out to try and win the Tour and the Vuelta this year. And I'd say I'm definitely on track for that, so I'm still going to keep that in my sights, and let's see how the next few weeks go.
Chris, very well done. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Well, we were going to save the Vuelta promo and run it in a few minutes' time, but since Chris has thoughtfully brought it up for us, I mean, that would be an achievement. Hasn't really been done properly in the modern era, with the Vuelta moving until later in the season.
I think it rained on his parade to break it up on the shows. Just finished this one. But yeah, he's up for it. The form is there, and it's a purely mental thing for him now. If he's still got it to get it all together again for another massive race. But with this one in your pocket, I think he can go there, and if it doesn't work out, he's still an incredible champion. So he'll be there, I think.
And, I mean, it's sort of relevant to this race in that he's planned his whole season, as he said, with both in mind. So he's perhaps peaking later and perhaps wasn't quite at the peak he has been in previous years here.
Well, nobody got a comfort factor before coming into this race to say, oh, look, he's really on it here, not winning anything and turning up with hopefully good form. They had to just rely on what was happening in training. But obviously that's paid dividends now, and you can say that he's only coming into form as opposed to going out of it. So should line up nicely. It's the mental side of it that's important, though.
What about the man who finished in second and third? One man we thought was already sort of on the downward slope of his career. Another one who finished a place lower than last year, but kind of looked better.
Well, Iran used his experience, didn't he? I mean, a wealth of experience, some of it with Sky. He read the race well. He barely made a move that wasn't essential. You know, it was just a very efficient ride. And Bardet, despite finishing one step further down, I think is a bigger champion for it. We saw somebody who rode with real passion and entertained us, went out there and just raced, and people could empathise and get behind it. And I think he's more of a champion because of it.
And forgive us for skipping over Fabio Aru in fifth, but Dan Martin in sixth. Without his crash, with more of a team, he could have been a real contender, was a contender until the crash happened, and rode a fabulously attacking race, whether it was good for him or not. Yeah,
I don't think his team fully believed in him, in that they came with, you know, some great riders and different ambitions, of course, and I don't think that worked for him, but he kept on fighting as well. Again, didn't really have a big bad day, so he is also there or thereabouts if he can get that team behind him and just do away with some bad luck.
Yeah, and finally a question about Simon Yates, and I sort of go back to the interview he did the other day where he was congratulated on the white jersey but was already thinking about changing it for another unspecified colour. But we know what he's talking about. He's not interested in measuring himself against young riders. He wants to measure himself against the best.
You can put that one to bed now. He's done it, and this now it's about focusing on yellow, and as you say, he's already alluded to it, and the most best thing about his performance here is his consistency. So he's been stretched on occasion, but he's never been blown away, and that's a big step forward. There's a physical gap between him and the very best, but it's quite small now, and he is young by virtue of the fact that he's got that jersey. You can see that, and he can close that gap.
All right, we are closing in on the final music montage of this year's tour. First, the competition. Here's your chance to win an amazing prize package worth over £23,000. First up, there's £15,000 for the winner to spend on whatever they like. Plus, courtesy of the Cycle Show, the winner will be getting their hands on a 2018 Cannondale Synapse High Mod Dura Ace Di2. Cycle retail vouchers worth £1,000. And 4 tickets to this year's Cycle Show at the NEC Birmingham, where you'll get to see some of the best riders, cycling features and brands. For your chance to win £15,000, the bike, vouchers and tickets, just text the word cycle to 80900. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Go to itv.com/comps, entries cost £2, or send your name and phone number by post to TDF 0317 PO Box 7558 Derby DE10NQ. Entrance must be 18 or over. Entry by text and online closes at 4 p.m. on Friday the 28th of July. And that, needless to say, is your last chance to enter, because we're coming to the end of the final show of this year's tour. The time has come for me to shake Chris Bourban's hand, thank him for his company and fielding the odd hospital pass of a live question. Thank you for watching. As ever, if you've enjoyed the coverage, the names of the people to thank are coming up in the credits. And that is it for the Tour de France 2017. Coming into it, Chris Froome hadn't won a single stage of a single race this season. He still hasn't won a single stage, but he has won a race.
Waking up in the freezing cold with your mother's tears coming through the walls, and that same feeling spinning round your veins. Your daddy's leaving town again.
Wow, it's stuff you watch on TV, isn't it? It's just incredible to be sat here doing it. And yeah, Paris isn't far away from Dusseldorf, is it? So maybe we just go straight there now and finish.
Oh, now Geraint Thomas is down once again. Is he the only rider down? Oh, no. 2 riders are down, Dan Martin and Ports. trying to force a gap on the line, and he hits the barriers.
We decided to disqualify Peter Sagan from Tour de France 2017.
For sure, I am not agree with the decision because I think I didn't do something wrong.
There is a crash. Steve Cummings is just... Oh, and the green jersey.
This is the worst possible case scenario for him.
For it to work out like this was not the way I had planned, with Kittel crashing, obviously. In the end, as long as he's okay, that's what makes me happy.
Chris Froome's come to a halt. He's had a bump or puncture or something. Now he's in such a bad position. Chris Froome is getting booed by the French crowd.